Welcome to Spoon Questions Answered, Episode 3. And I've just watched Episode 2, and I'm going to clean up a few things. And then I'm going to mention a few things I forgot to mention, and then we'll go on to show and tell. There are 3 natural drying oils. One is tongue oil, which is the most drying. If you were to cook tongue oil, it would gel. You basically can't even heat the stuff. It's a commonly used wood finish. It's not one that I use or don't use very much. It's not my culture. My culture is a linseed oil culture, and that's where I would go, is turpentine and linseed oil for usual, furniture type stuff. But of course not for spoons because of the taste and the smell. And the second most drying oil is linseed oil. The linseed oil is famous for the hand-rubbed finish. What drying means with oil is what today in the modern world we call polymerization. What happens is the oil, the reason we call oil oil is because the molecules are little and round and roll around like marbles. That's why oil is oil. If you put the oil on wood, these little round molecules penetrate into the wood because they're little and they're individual little round marble thingies and tiny marble thingies. And when they get into the wood, certain oils can be made to stick together. And when these little oil molecules stick together, that's known scientifically as polymerization, which the woodworker calls drying. And there are dryers that can be mixed with oil, which when they hit the air can make the molecules stick together. So the molecules go into the wood, and because they're little and round, and then inside the wood, they stick together and they don't come out. That's what drying is. The tongue dries the best. Linseed oil, these are all by themselves. Linseed oil dries not as well as tongue. And the traditional hand-rubbed finish works because linseed oil will polymerize when heated. So the 18th century furniture maker works for Duncan Fife will put raw linseed oil without any thinners onto the seat of the chair and then rub it with the heel of his bare hand and build up heat. And that will cause the oil to polymerize inside the wood. Not deeply, but under the surface of the wood. This is a molecular system, and that's what it's all about. Walnut oil is a drying oil, but not much of one. But walnut oil is palatable. It tastes good. Linseed, you wouldn't want a lot of, you could finish a spoon with linseed oil, but you would have to deal with the taste. And as I say, probably tongue oil is the best, and some say it's poisonous and others say it's not. And I know an old timer who used it, and he finished pianos, so who cares, but he used it, and he said that tongue he believed was Chinese for stomach, and it was used for medicine. But that doesn't prove it's not poisonous. I think in terms of spoon finish, you can really use whatever you want. I can't, I'm a professional. I just have to sell spoons, and so it needs to be certain and certainly palatable, and I do the best I can. But I can't imagine there's any way to poison people with a wooden spoon. I think you could just paint it with house paint if you wanted to. Years ago, I don't know what the other guys do. I tend to keep away. I don't want to be affected. So I tend not to know what other people are doing. But back in the old days, in the 70s and the 80s, a lot of them were using floor finishes. These water locks was one, and these outdoor deck finishes, and not Minwax, Watco was one. These penetrating epoxy finishes. Epoxy is plastic. It's not poisonous. I don't like it, but it's probably better than anything I do. Of course, they're putting it on dry wood, and as I say, the problem is to make a really good spoon, it needs to be fired to get that spring steel quality into wood, which is what I consider next necessary for a good tool handle, like the axe handle that I took my whole spoon making thing away from. So that's the problem, and how can I tell? I've said to you in episode 2, I said I lay them out to dry for a day, just because who wants to load up a firing with lots of water? And they mostly don't crack, but I can tell if they're going to. And I just don't know how I can tell, but I'll tell you a story. I was being followed for some time by an academic who was writing his doctor's thesis on craft. His question was, how is American craft different from third world craft? Which and he was using me for an example of American craft, and he was around all the time. And well, I had apprenticed him. He was carving spoons, and one time I showed him a piece of lilac. We had gone out after wood, and they showed him the end grain, a piece of lilac, and I said, Jim, I said, you look at that end grain. He said, yeah. He said, you see any cracks? He said, nope, no cracks. I said, okay, that will be cracked in 5 minutes. And he said, no, how do you know that? I said, yeah, time it. 5 minutes later, it was cracked. How did I know? I don't know how I knew, but I knew. And that's really what education is all about. I've had this feeling of, I'm trying not to combine spoon making questions with hand hewing questions, because I have a hand hewing scene going on, and the hewers ask questions too. But I've done years ago, I did a lot of hand hewing, which was very uncommon in the 30, 40 years ago, in public. I would be outside the Historical Society of a member in Hopkinton, New Hampshire, or the Sunapee Fair, hewing round log square in public. And you would see the guys standing around, and they'd be watching my hewing. And you could tell, they'd talk to you, and you could tell what they were thinking. They were thinking, yeah, I could do that. That's education. That's all you need. I figured it out. They can figure it out. They did. All you need to do, all I need to do to popularize, teach people to hew beams or make spoons is do it. And people who are impressed in a sort of way will say, I could do that. And so now I said it twice. So that's education. So I can tell when a piece of wood will crack, and I can prove it. And that means you can too. So when you figure out how you can tell, let me know. Okay, the temperature at which I fire, 213.5 degrees. I used to fire at 225. I don't know why. It was too hot, they cracked. The cooler the temperature at which you fire spoons, the less chance that it is for them to crack, and the less danger. There's obviously danger in heating wax. So this is the minimum temperature, and as I say, it takes 3 12-hour periods, to do a complete firing. And if you did it at 211.5 degrees, it might take a week. So in order to do it efficiently and not to overdo it, I have come to this temperature. But it is not carved in stone. You can fire hotter, you can fire cooler. Don't. Fire where I fire. Trust me, it's the best place. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Wax boils somewhere around 400, somewhere much higher. You remember that famous novel by one of those two guys who wrote those famous novels. One was 1984, and George Orwell was one, and the other one, what was the other guy's name anyway? Brave New World. One of them wrote a novel called Fahrenheit 451, which was about, like most science fiction novels, was basically about people opposing a Nazi government, and this was about Fahrenheit 451. Anyway, was the kindling temperature of paper, because it was all about burning books, and people were memorizing books because the government said all the books had to be burned. And you've read it. Everybody has to read this novel. It's one of the must reads. So when wax boils, it is called flashing. It turns into vapor, and that vapor from boiling wax is it's explosive. I mean, it's brutally. It's the way a diesel motor works. That's why diesel oil has to be heated before you can start a diesel engine. It has to be vaporized before it can burn. Diesel oil, kerosene, wax, mineral oil do not burn. They have to be heated to a vapor before they burn. When you try to light a candle, I maybe said this before, it's sounding familiar. Okay, you've seen that before if you're watching my videos. You have to heat the wax. It takes a while, and the flame is above. It's a vapor that's burning. So be careful. Don't get your wax too hot. There's plenty of slop, but be careful. So that's what I got from my watching of number 2. And here are the things I forgot to say in number 2, which were in my notes. Number 1, if you are a beginner, you shouldn't pile up too much wood underwater, because by the time you get around to carving it, you're not going to like it. You're going to learn so much from splitting and carving wood, that you really, your opinions will change, your taste will change, and it should. So don't pile up too much wood too fast. Just carve green wood, and if it cracks, you got crack spools. No big deal. Save the long. Let it happen by itself, as it happened for me. Number 2. You can't sand green wood. You can't sand wet wood. This is one of the reasons why you fire before you finish. I suppose you can't sand waxy wood. You have to clean your sandpaper. There was a period, I mentioned this in my finish, after my coarse sanding, where I washed my spoons in ammonia. I also washed the sandpaper. Ammonia will take wax out of sandpaper. So you use a lot of sandpaper, and it fills very fast, and then you wash it in ammonia and dry it and use it again. So use wet and dry, use waterproof sandpaper. The third thing is just an interesting question I was going to mention, and I don't suppose I really need to, which is this whole thing about sharp knives are less dangerous than dull knives. Dull knives will cut you. It's a discussion I'm going to save for a later time, because I want to get through my show and tell. Number 4, yes, I do promise to do a sharpening video. I'm sure there are plenty of sharpening videos, but I have come up with a way to sharpen that people who don't know how to sharpen can sharpen, because I'm the one who doesn't know how to sharpen, but I sharpen, and I think it's valuable, so I'll come up with that, and sometime in the future. And Now I'm going to move to show and tell because my guess this time is getting short again. So let me begin with this piece. This is where most spoon makers begin. This just came out of the firewood in the last. I found this yesterday in the firewood. You see that kind of ball? This is the outside of the tree. It's all old dead wood, and this is the inside here. This is the outside of the tree, and it's a growth over the end of a knot. In other words, a limb has been broken off or sawn off, and the sapwood, see the light color, that sapwood is grown over it, and everybody sees this, and they say, oh, there's a spoon, see? There's a spoon. And this is where I found my first spoons. I thought they were wonderful, and I have watched beginners find their spoon in bumps on the outsides of big trees for decades, and none of them are any good. So I encourage you not to find your spoons there. What happens is every spoon in a bump on the outside of a tree is always has a kind of a sick bend to it. It dribbles the soup out of the end of the bowl. It doesn't go like this, like a spoon should. It goes like that. And you'll make a few. You'll find out that they do, and I hate them. And so art is free. Do what you want, but I wanted to show you that and discourage you from making that. Now, here's an interesting spoon in the wood. The handle's down here, and you see how it comes up. See how clearly it comes up, like a hand itself or a claw. And here is where the limb came out. So this is the top of the tree, okay? And the handle's down here, and the spoon comes up. And so here is where to look for spoons in big wood. If you cut the longest piece you can handle in terms of splitting, and put a big knot in the middle. And then maybe the handle will be up here, maybe the handle will be down here, and split. Make your first split right through. See, that's where the knot came out, okay? Like a broomstick coming out. So split right through the knot. And then you can begin to quarter. And after a while, you'll get an idea of whether it's right-handed or left-handed, and where the healthy curve, the strong, S-T-R-O-N-G, that's an artistic term. The shape, the healthy shape, is, and you can cut one end off and begin and split more and more, and you'll find that is how I would tell you in the beginning, until you have your own opinions, to find spoons in big wood. Here is a stir-fry spoon, one of my stir-fry spoons, which and I found in a big piece of cherry about the same size as this. And the knot came right through here, see? And so this is the growth around the knot. And when I split this out and carve it and fire it, watch this. See that bend? Okay? This is what I call, I used the term earlier, spring steel. This is a fired spoon that grew around the knot in a big log. And this is a dynamite spoon. What was I going to say? Okay, so that's that. Now, I want to show you one piece that I found just last week in the firewood. And this brings us to a whole new subject. Check this out, all right? Listen to it. I don't know how I got it. I don't know how it happened. Obviously, the piece was straight and it must have bent. So maybe a tree fell on it. I have no idea where it came from. I just bought the firewood and there it was. But all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there must be 60 60 individual pieces here waiting to be split out, and they are a set of pickup sticks. Now, pickup sticks are something very important to me, and I want to lay them on you in a very serious way. So let me begin by just showing you a little bit of my life. Here is a set of pickup sticks that I made. And whenever I split spoons, I always try to split out one stick, from the outside, from the scrap, from what's not going to be a spoon. And realize, that's an artistic term, it means to carve and finish, realize one stick. And it's really a difficult thing to do. Here is a set of pickup sticks, one magnificent set of pickup sticks. I have made, in my lifetime, I have made less than a dozen sets of pickup sticks. Notice how they relate to this one and that one, how these two bent around the same knot. These sticks all came from the same billet of wood, just like the one I showed you that I found in my firewood yesterday. And I sold that set of pickup sticks without the base. They went to an eye doctor, and he didn't like the base. He thought the base looked like they were coming out of somebody's eye, and it upset him. So I sold that set for $1,200 to an eye doctor, and that probably profited me $2 or $3 an hour for my labor, which is not bad for a craft artist. Here's another set that I made, and this is from a lilac that grew beside a driveway and had been, let me put my finger, here's a glooch on that, let me just hold it like this, and had been run over time after time by the same snowplow. And it was all broken up, and you can see that black mark, it's right there. You see it right here, that little black mark there. That's a string wrapping. Some of these sticks had to be repaired. And I made the base out of the same lilac, and accidentally recapitulated the history of the barrel. The original barrels, they're known because when they got old, they were used as well liners, so they survived for 1,000 years. Were hollow logs, of course, naturally hollowed logs. And then when they broke and split, the original barrels, the bottom of the barrel was the ground beneath them. And when they broke and split, somebody figured out how to put a bottom into them and tie them back together. And you can see how the barrel was invented. And I actually made 2 floors in this barrel, one down here which supports these short ones, and one just above the short ones that supports the long ones. And that was a magnificent set. And it was so long ago, and I don't remember who bought that set or what they paid for it. But it is actually twice as hard to make a stick, for me, than to make a spoon. And if you're watching this and you're a wannabe spoon maker and you don't have hollowing tools and you're not really prepared to make spoons, you can make pickup sticks. You can go out in the backyard with a pair of clippers and just clip twigs, and you have a set of pickup sticks, and you can begin to play, and you can go from there to extreme. This stuff is extreme. I'm an extremist. This is after 40 years of experience in woodworking, and this is high tech. This is interesting. Many questions are asked. The pickup sticks are it's gone. You can't buy a decent set of pickup sticks. culturally, they've turned into kid toys, and 5 minutes? Well, I'm gonna have to go to number 4, I guess. Yes, so let me just end with this. Here is a spoon came out of here, obviously. And this is the outside. And remember I told you over and over again how you can't make a spoon out of the outside of the bend because there's always a knot hole in the outside. There's a knot hole. And what I did was I split this outside piece, which is throwaway, into 4 pieces, all that relate to each other as the curves. And each one of these, theoretically, will be made into a stick. And we have 5 pickup sticks, which all relate to each other, and isn't that wonderful? Anyway, there is more to be said. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do episode 4 until I have received from you some more questions, some more comments, and I need your questions, I need your comments. And after I have received something more from you, I will go to episode number 4 and answer them and say a little more about pickup sticks.